We
can
did
add 83
specifically,
and have 17 instead of 16.
well, so specifically, they set the approval not by lake name, but by the number of lakes. So as long as we don't exceed the, was it 15 lakes here, they don't care the name of the lake. So as it sits, they're approving 15
So
lakes.
then if
So
we
you wanna
do
add
add
it,
83, we do have to remove one.
either have to remove it, or we are working on the facilities plan for the CIP. You could add that specific lake to that same CIP because it's to that facilities plan, because that's going to the same division of DEP.
Well, I'd send a letter, I think, to you and Chris, with the understanding that if we add 83, which I don't have a problem with, adding 83, I gave my opinion on the one where I think I may have mentioned 3 that could very easily come out. And they were 3 that I looked at that were just barely made phase 2 instead of phase 3.
And as it sits with this, you can make that decision later. This covers you for the design for all of them, including 83.
Well, but there's another part of this. There is no way in the world that we're going to construct, bid, construct, or anything else, all of these this year.
Right.
So we need to take as a board and give you direction on which of these, I'm gonna say 4, 5, 6 ponds
To focus on.
that we want to accelerate to have in a position to bid in November to start the work in December. And let that be phase 2A, and then next year will be phase 2B. So to me, if we gotta pick which one we're going to drop out, and then we've got to pick which one of the 6, so I'd start with 6 ponds that we're going to go with. I think the question is, we gotta work backwards. Stephen, this issue came up at the last meeting. We had not increased the debt, the P&I for 2020, because we simplifying, we over-collected principal and interest the last 2 years because the work was staggered. In other words, we didn't borrow all $8 million at one time.
That's correct, but
So-
the current amount is built off of all of the loans that have already been approved and that will be required by 2020. We have an amortization schedule in the budget that has every loan and when the first P&I will be due.
My question is, that amount of money that we've got that's excess, that does not necessitate having an increase,
Correct?
we need that number to work backwards, because that corresponds to how much money we got available to pay a P&I on a amount of borrowed money. Is that $1 million, $2 million, 2.5? Because that leads Danny as to how many ponds or which ponds add up to equal that number. In other words, we don't want to go out and bid $4 million worth of work and have a bond and then have a P&I payment that's more than what we got. We've got to balance it with what we got available for a principal and interest payment. You see what I'm saying?
Not really, because again, we're matching it up against all the documents that Danny provides for each loan. Every time one gets approved, it's got a amortization schedule in it. So we make sure we tie exactly to what's gonna be due to the state.
Okay, I'll ask it a different way. If we do, without a number, $3 million, the estimate on this work, as I recall, was $8, $9 million total for all of it, somewhere in that neighborhood. If we did $3 million of work bid in November, and we incurred $3 million in costs through, let's say, May next year, then doing the work, we gotta start paying on that loan, or is there a deferred period?
There is a deferred period for the
How long is it?
construction, but just so you know, the amortization schedule we have built in here is built off of $11.8 million.
Okay, not 8 million.
No.
So then
because
we have spent 8 million, correct?
Again, it's not about spending. You're confusing the construction activity work with when the principal and interest is due. Two separate things. They
No, I'm
have
trying to
a-
figure out how much money have you say we have approval for financing for 11.8.
No, we are assessing based on principal and interest for up to $11.8 million worth of funding that we have not received all of yet.
Was that including the existing?
That's including the existing plus the additional 8 whatever million that we put the last,
Okay.
we put a full.
From the latest facility?
Exactly, we put a full facilities report out there that included the full 8 point, I think it was
Plus what's
6.
already been spent.
I just
Plus
asked it a
what's already
different way
been
then.
6. Yeah, you're
How much money can we do in projects this year?
the full amount, the 8.6, if you were able to get all of that work.
So we could go do it all.
You could do it all, but no, again, the benefit of this is you're not gonna have to pay principal and interest on that during the construction of that work.
Understood.
It gets pushed out one more year.
Okay.
So if you look at the amortization schedule, 2020, the principal and interest due, the annual debt service is $466,000. Next year, in 2021, that goes up to $709,000, because as these loans are, as the, work gets done, the principal and interest starts to kick in. So that's why the
The last time, or the only time, we have approved what, like $69, $70 of additional debt assessment for everybody, all the EAUs. And that was to essentially cover, at 2.1%, $8 million, ballpark,
Roughly, yes.
okay? If we take it to 16 million, we've got to have another, increase in that principal and interest debt component on our budget.
If you go from another, I guess, 11 to now 16,
Yep.
you will, the amortization
We've said
schedule will
seven.
get adjusted.
So
He's
Budget.
projecting 11.
But again, that's not gonna affect 2020.
Gotcha.
You're gonna look at
We're good.
2021.
We're
Or
good.
2021.
So our best bet is just go back and pick $3 million worth of work on 5, 6 projects we've done with it.
Well, I mean, realistically, there's the financial side, then there's what can you physically
Which could bid.
done.
Right.
Yeah, which you bid.
And
That's why I
you've
said
got
4
15.
to 6 projects is all you're gonna be able to do.
Right, I mean, you got 15, the most we've been able to do has been 3, 4, I mean, you got 15, it's almost like this is a 3-year program. You're gonna do 5, 5, and 5. These are gonna be less stringent, but I think you're still gonna do 5, 5, and 5, just with the contractors that we seem to have available, that's where you're at.
Well, I guess the question, Margaret, is how are we going to do this as far as, we gotta give him some advice as far as accelerating the design on those projects that we think that we can build next year of those 15, 16 ponds. Which ones are we going to do? Obviously, to me, 83's been a pain in the backside for a long time. That would be one I wanna get out of the way, but then, how do you wanna do this?
I don't know if you
Put in
need
a
to
rating or let staff rate these and tell Danny,
That's what I would do. I don't know that you need to make that decision today. If we could get
oh, no, we don't
authorization
need
on
to do that
this,
today.
then,
We need to be doing it soon because November's gonna be here and we need to have the plans.
well, I mean, we'll, like you said, is we'll accelerate whatever those priority ones are. But we're gonna do the design for all of them,
Oh, yeah.
Including 83.
including 83. It's just which ones are we gonna focus on getting done first? But our
Yes.
CAD guys will be setting up drawing sheets for everything.
And I think part of the task authorization effort is to evaluate this and come up with a recommendation
Yes,
of
yeah.
the 5 for this next
Right.
phase.
Just let staff do that.
We'll do that with staff.
Yeah.
And I think this last year, didn't we actually get 6 done? I think each vendor did 2.
They were
So-
smaller though.
They were
That's the
smaller.
difference.
So, and some of these are smaller,
Yeah,
so
some
I
of these
think,
are smaller.
And the only thing I would say is just when you work with staff on your prioritization and identification, if you just make sure we document what the guidelines are, just so we have got something to come back and say.
Explain to people.
Yeah, this is why your lake got chosen or your lake did not.
Mrs. Fleury, did you have a comment? For this one. So you need approval of this tax
Yes.
authorization.
Motion to approve.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's done.
okay, the second one is housekeeping. These are 3 older projects that we've essentially expired the time. So Chris had asked us to do a change order for time. So the first one is the surface water modeling.
What page are we on?
Page 70 of the agenda.
Steve's scrolling it up.
Okay, so the first is the hydraulic modeling. When we started this task. Of course, we got it to a completion point of the model, but had to stop. This is the one where we need the data during the rainy season. So this one, we're just simply asking for it to be.
Kind deal for weather.
Right.
Gotcha.
The second two are deficient on our part. We've since got everything is submitted to the county for the development orders. We're simply waiting to hear back from them, so we're asking for the additional time to respond to any requests for additional information. But those tasks are complete otherwise.
And just for clarification, the only thing that's changing on these is the time,
Only time.
is the completion date.
Yeah.
Questions?
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I want to thank you for answering my question when I called you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What if we don't approve the change orders? Because you did say it was your fault for the last two, that they weren't done on time.
There's, essentially, they would be defunct. It would be a legal question. Would they be expired?
I just,
Yeah, I don't know.
that was just a question I thought I'd ask. Because you said there's no more money involved, but time is money.
This is the proper way of doing it. A lot of people will do it, they don't do anything. Chris is 100% correct.
Right.
And being on the record of doing it the right way, and a change order is the proper way of doing it.
I think the appropriate question is what caused the delays?
It was on us. The first,
I mean, was
on the,
it resources, just what, prioritization?
prioritization.
Yeah, I understand the hydraulic piece, but the other two, just,
Yeah, prioritization on other gateway tasks, it was on us.
Describe the lake bank permitting, what's the issue there? I don't recall that one.
Well, what ended up causing that delay, and again, it's on us, was one of the items that they required was a lake management plan. And there was not a lake management plan, we had to develop that, so it was deficient on our side preparing that. So,
That has
it's
been
been
submitted.
submitted, it's been submitted, everything's been done, it's just we're waiting to hear back from them. It's the same on both.
so these were delayed, but they've been resolved. And now we're just looking for approval to continue to proceed.
Right.
Right.
Motion to approve the change order request.
So, Mrs. Flaherty? Yes.
Yes, I thought I had the floor. I do have another question.
Okay.
Okay? Because you're admitting that you didn't do everything properly and there was a delay, shouldn't there be a consequence? I mean, should you have to pay us some money back? I'm just bringing up all the.
That's a great idea, I don't know that you have a mechanism for that, but.
Okay, I just figured I'd ask.
Yes.
You get into damages, then you get into rewards, and I don't wanna go that route. That's dangerous.
But I could ask. There's no rule says I couldn't ask the question.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
And is there anything else?
No, I think I'm finished now.
Okay.
Motion to approve the change order.
On all three?
Yes.
I'll say.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Opposed? You've got it.
Okay, and lastly, we set up and had, this is not on the agenda, but just wanted to kind of give an update. We scheduled and held a meeting on Monday with the Water Management District to talk about Lake 83, as well as the wetland between 83 and the school property. The wetland thought would be the easiest cut and dry issue, since the wetland is basically going to be defunct, since the school board is filling in their side of the wetland, which leaves approximately a half an acre on Gateway side. So we can basically submit to ask for that to be abandoned. It has already been mitigated as part of the process that the school board is doing, so there's nothing that has to be done.
They mitigated our side.
Yes, so it's a secondary mitigation, I think what they called it, something along that line. So as far as physically, nothing would need to be done. What they did warn is, we have a new governing board, and the new governing board is conservation. Conservation is one of the items that they are key on, so she was just letting us know that even though we submit, it may not be approved. We also asked if we could trade that location, fill it in for the area to the east of Lake 84. And she said, again, we could ask that, but no guarantee. So Lake 84 has an area that's not designated, I believe now as a wetland, but it's an area, it's not a conservation area, but it is essentially a wetland that's not being utilized, so.
Are they going to renege on the school? And tell the school?
Well, the
Can't
school
do
has
that
already been
either.
approved. We have a new governing board since the school's approval. So,
But if the school mitigated it, is there really anything other than getting their?
it's still an approval by the board. So I think the argument is simple. It's, hey, there was, a 20 acre, 30 acre, whatever that was, wetland that was a functioning, and that's now defunct. I mean, it has no flow contribution coming from gateway system, and has no, it's high ground on both sides, so there's no contributing factor to it. So I think the argument's there, and I think this is a pretty low item, and I can't imagine why the governing board would not approve it. If it was 100 acres we were talking about of filling in, I think that's one thing, but we're talking about a half an acre of worthless land,
So what do we need to do to get that?
So, I'll kind of move to the lake before I answer that, because they're
Okay.
related. So, with the lake, and I think they understand the issue, and we even went back and looked at aerials. They were able to pull up, aerials on Google Earth, and you could see all the algae historically. So the problem with that lake, so everybody knows, in addition to the erosion that we'll be fixing, is that lake is one of the worst, if not the worst, in Gateway in terms of water flow. The water just can't exit. The control elevation is set very high, and they believe it was set very high because of that wetland. But this lake does not drain to that wetland. But hydraulically, when you're looking at the water movement through the earth below the grade, they believe it was set for that. Now that wetland is going, hopefully, well, the majority of that wetland is going away. So the control for the school and the control for Lake 84 are both set at 23, a foot lower. So there's an easy argument to look at lowering that. They're gonna require us to go and do some modeling. One of the outcomes of what they had asked to do was to survey what that actual rate elevation. Most control structures have either a slot or a slit, a hole, or a slit that allows water to exit at a lower. This does not. It simply overflows a grate and then goes into Lake 84. That was supposed to be set at 24. We don't know for sure that it is, so Chris is gonna hire to have a surveyor go out and do that. The other thing they asked is for us to set a staff gauge so we can actually monitor that water level in the lake. So, how that then ties into the wetland, what we do there is we would submit for a permit modification. We would have to do some modeling, we'd have to review the staff gauge, have the supporting information, and then request that we lower the elevation, either to 23, 23 and a half, somewhere. And then we would ask at the same time to remove the conservation area to the north. I think the lake lowering, I think, is definitely a realistic, fairly easy thing to do. The wetland should be as well, she was just warning there's no guarantee that the governing board would approve it, because they have no control over that. They can make a recommendation, and most likely the governing board would go along with that, but no guarantees.
And how long do you think it'll take to accomplish what you just suggested?
Well, I think what we need to do, we would need to prepare a task authorization, bring that back before the board, but you're gonna need to get the surveying done, set staff gauge up, and get that done fairly quickly, and so that we can get data through the rainy season. And once we have that, you would actually be starting to do our part during the fall. So probably, we're talking probably November or so before we could actually get something submitted, I would guess.
I thought we had a shot on that. Flavia, do you remember, was it 24 or 25? I thought it-
24.25.
I think it was 25,
Yeah.
because it was that wetland, it was an absurd number.
If
But
there's
anyway,
a
my
survey
point
data
was,
already.
we could go out there and establish that like tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
the issue we need to do, you're talking about putting a staff gauge in,
In the lake.
so as to be able to monitor the flow over it during these rain events?
To demonstrate to them what the actual levels are in the lake, yes.
No.
I mean,
It's been like every year, it doesn't overflow.
right, we know that, we explain that to
So
them
we're,
as well.
we're demonstrating that to them.
We're demonstrating reality, and that's been the problem, is that set of 24, I think Flavia said, is only twice during,
6 times in the last 10 years that we keep recount.
yeah,
I think
so.
that probably is pretty accurate.
We know that, and I think they believe us, but they just need something to demonstrate.
What do you have to do, put in a hand recorder, like we've done at the other gauges? A signaling
You could,
device?
I would just say, you
We
could
can
do
go
it,
that
you could do it
expensive.
manually. You could just put a
Is it manual
stat
hand
gauge
recorder?
out there.
Okay.
Flavia's out there every day, so.
We have a measuring stick
Pretty
already.
much.
And Madam Chairman, Danny, at the point in time where we submit, it goes to the governing board, and I've not done this in a long time, but Charlotte Roman, remember the governing board?
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
known her for years. She's on Mark Island City Council member, I knew her, she's on the planning commission.
That could be helpful.
Yeah, so we need to,
Yeah, they're definitely.
You know, maybe mad lately, haven't
no, she likes it.
you? Good.
My partner Marco, and, no.
The question is if she like you.
I've not been her mad.
Let's get the task description in, because especially the monitoring, because I don't wanna lose another season on this. The water, if it's gonna come, will be in the next 90 days. So we need to have that, so we don't have to wait another 365 to get 90 days.
I think even, even before the staff gauge is in, which I'm gonna guess Chris will have it in pretty quickly, but, I mean, Flavia could take a picture every day that shows nothing's going over, somebody could, I'm not.
Actually, we have a camera set up back there, and that's all I know.
Perfect. So we can demonstrate it already in the meantime. But you wouldn't actually have something recording what that actual water
Well,
level is.
my guess is that right now, the water downstream of that 84 is probably setting somewhere in the neighborhood of 23 at control, because that's where we're at right now. So there is one heck of a lot of storage capability in that pond that water isn't gonna go over.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to set a, staff gauge in 84 as well. But anyhow, I think that's where we're at. So I'll bring a
Why don't we
task
get that data as soon
authorization
as
back.
possible, so we can satisfy their needs.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I just have one, so,
Oh.
Annie, just in the future, I think what we would ask is, if there's a task authorization that is coming up, that you're not going to meet that deliverable, let's bring it in for an extension, as opposed to,
Before,
just in
right?
the.
No, agreed. Well,
spirit of-
this is the first, and, in fact, this is the first change order that we've done that way. We didn't have a template, so now we have a mechanism.
No, understood, I'm just, in the spirit of transparency, just moving forward.
Where are we on the building? What's the status of the building?
I'll check with Lee County on the development order on that side of it, both with the building as well as the lake banks, but, as far as the buildings itself, I'm not.
And just to that real quick, just because I can't remember, is there, what on-site, what needs to be done on-site to prepare for that building?
Permit and a little prep work on the site itself. just
Yeah, I'm
about
talking,
when
preparation from materials.
It's
or-
minimal, I mean, it's gonna go, back here, so obviously you have to prepare the pad, I'm sure, do compaction, do all of that. There's
So we don't have
sidewalk
more
inside.
pads, are we gonna use the,
Just seeing it's just gonna go on dirt, it's not gonna.
okay,
be-
so you don't have to, you don't
So
have to.
just the
pour pad or
foundation
anything.
areas that they will do, I'm assuming when they
Is there
set
a
it up.
restroom in it?
Yes.
So we gotta make a sewer and water connection?
Sewer and water connection, and sidewalk, there's a ramp, that you'll have to do, there's not a lot of sidewalk.
Ramp, for
ADA.
It's
And
just
then-
a sidewalk.
And then in addition, so there's specific, components to the building itself, and then there's, connection, whether it's water, sewage, electrical, whatever. But, Chris, is there anything to, this part of the property that we'll be making any adjustments for anything? I'm just curious.
I think-
No parking spaces, no pavement?
Yeah, we could have, and we've actually moved our mobile equipment over and had areas striped for it to park it, the generators and the pumps. But as you take a look out there right now, there's a lot of options.
Well, I just didn't know if there was an optimal time as we're, either prepping for the building, or if we've got, certain equipment maybe around, if there was something that we, we're looking to do. So I just thought, I wasn't sure what the total plan was, so
The
I
other
just.
thing we have in the Capitol out there too is we looked at putting up a pole barn over that
A basketball court, what'd you say?
Full barn. That could be a covered court.
I'm just kidding.
And for what,
and-
equipment storage?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, put it under there, and as far as the big lead time is always the electrical service, and that service was set today by Bentley, so we'll just be waiting on FPL now. The service is up.
And then the last one is, where are we on phase one pond, lake, bank finalization? Are the ponds now all done, or are they, I think they're all done, aren't they? And we did a walkthrough of, the one in the middle of Callaway. I walked through it about a week and a half ago, and they needed some more stone because the green matting was showing.
What do you
But
feel-
other than that, it looked beautiful.
Is that what you felt like certificate of, what's
Yes,
it called?
usually what the contractor wants is a certificate of approval, so he can put in for final payment.
Yeah.
But, have we done a final inspection of it, that we're done with phase one totally now?
I believe all the physical work and all the inspections have been done. I'm not positive on the whole financial and closeout side. That's been
Well, and clean up, because there's equipment still setting over there, and some places where he's gotta put sod down,
And,
where he was working.
and they're finishing up, and what we are waiting on, the only thing we don't have for that final cleanup, and we also don't have the final as-built, which would trigger the engineer's
Right.
sign off on completion. And that's just for those 2 ponds. The other 4 are done, and all been certified, and we put in reimbursement requests to FDEP for that funding, and, we'll be following up the last 2 ponds.
The 2 ponds in Callaway, the work was excellent. It really looks nice. Really looks nice. Now, the test will be when that one lady gets back from wherever she goes in the summertime. Let's see if it meets her stamp of approval.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Pelican Preserve Bridge Replacement Revised Estimate.
I'll make a motion to approve that, because I've seen, I went and saw the bridges, the walking bridges, and they really do need to be.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I will second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Pelican Preserve Bridge Replacement Revised Estimate. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
That brings us to Fun Park towing costs.
And this was introduced about a month and a half ago. It died in a 2-2 vote. And I was just bringing it back, and it was really at the request of the neighbors there. And mostly because they've had folks parking their vehicles over the weekend, lawn service trucks, people bring their boats in, and park them there over the weekends and that type of thing. And also at night, sometimes you get cars that are parked overnight or they're staying there late. Some other people come up and pull in between the parked cars. We haven't had a lot of security issues up there recently. We did install a gate, and we have been locking that gate at night and opening it up in the morning, which has helped quite a bit. But the request was just to put a sign up that we can tow vehicles up there, and that's more if somebody leaves a vehicle over there over the weekend. And again, at the request of the residents. And not a ton of them, but 4 or 5 of them were very vocal about it.
Mr. Banks?
Have you had any issues of closing the gate while there's vehicles inside? Has anybody calling you and say, hey, my car's inside, or have an issue with
No,
it?
not yet, and
Yeah.
if there are cars there or somebody's not there, we don't lock them in, because we don't want them driving across the grass to get out.
Okay, so you can't lock the gate, or the policy is, or at least your procedure is, you don't lock the gate if there's cars or something in place.
And we do the same thing at the soccer field, because sometimes we get people there that are kinda hanging out, they'll get off the field, but, we're not gonna sit there and lock their car and
Yeah,
lock the
okay,
gates on them.
So it's a staff recommendation.
Mrs. Flaherty?
Yes, I have talked to residents at Cypress Point too about this and how they felt about it. The only thing they made a suggestion was that if we're going to tow the cars, that, we put a sign up saying as effective as of a certain date, your car would be towed. Because that way they would have enough time to, it wasn't overnight.
So you got a grace period.
Right, that's, but they,
And a lot of times what you'll find over there too is, because they don't have street parking, in Eagle Point, in the subdivisions, is people will have company.
I understand it, but I voted no the first time, I'll vote no today, just because
It's-
I think it's difficult to enforce that, and in some cases, it's either you're gonna complain about people not parking on the street and parking in an available lot, and reduce that, then you're gonna have people parking on the street, not available to park in the lot, so it's a no-win,
I don't think it's a matter of, it's gonna be like every night we're gonna be towing people away, but we need to give staff a mechanism to tow a car that needs to be towed, that's just
But what's,
left there.
what's the, okay, so that's a good point. But then what is that specified in here, what the specifications are, and then, or is it at staff's discretion? We can tow anyone, someone's been there,
Be something
we
that-
think for a day,
somebody there after hours, you know, if the
yeah, I don't know.
car was.
That's why,
left.
I don't have any problem with the grace period, let them know and get
Right.
accustomed to it and
Yeah.
act it, but question I've got, we own that road, as I recall, from Gateway Boulevard over to the park.
Right.
Do we have no parking signs on that road?
No.
So why can't, if somebody's having a party in Cypress Point, why can't they park along that road?
No, they might be able to, it's 2 lanes.
They don't want
there's
people parking
plenty
in
of
a
room to
parking
park.
lot, do you think they're gonna want people parking on a
Well,
road?
my point is that rather than somebody objecting that we're taking away a overflow area because of this toll.
Yeah, but would you rather somebody
Park on
park
the
in
road.
that parking lot or park on the road? I'd much rather them park in the parking lot, away from the road, it's like, I mean, I understand the issue, but it just, I don't know, it's a little
Park in your
nonsensical.
driveway. As long as we have the grace period, I don't have a problem with it, but, some people will, if you don't do anything, will break the rules, that's all there is to it.
They'll abuse it, and that's what we're trying to avoid, but since we don't have our own police department that can write parking tickets, we need to be able to have some kind of a mechanism for the people that would abuse it, that's my opinion.
Maybe that's the conversation we should be having.
I will
Police department?
entertain a motion on this. Oh, yes,
One thing,
yes.
other places that close also have, they tow cars when it's closed. And it is a safety issue, it's for all the residents, so, I mean, that's what I'm looking at it, if the residents want it, it's
And
something.
a sign goes up that this is a tow-away zone,
Mhm.
effective, like
Right.
she said, effective August, whatever, we will be towing vehicles out of here. It'll stop in short order, people aren't gonna risk having their vehicle, at least
Did we-
that's my opinion.
Did we used to have tow away and we took it down because we couldn't afford it?
No, I don't think we ever, well, I don't think we formally adopted the policy, it's there was difficulty with that. So this, there's a statutory scheme, adopted the policy, and particular type of signs, had to have a contract. I don't think we had all that. in
I think we
place
had
in
some,
the
but we
past.
took it down because.
But we didn't have it all
we
in
didn't-
place.
Right, okay.
With the understanding that we'll have a, 2-week, 1-week grace period?
I was thinking more like 30 days, because.
Yeah, I
Okay,
was thinking
30 days.
30 days is a
Then,
good
with the
amount of
understanding
time.
we'll have a 30-day grace period, I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed?
Opposed.
And Chris, if you can get the resolution number for me, so I can insert that and also change the date of the resolution to today's date.
It would be nice to have some guidelines, so, it may not have to be an all, but give us the guidelines, if people ask, if we were gonna tow and why, I mean, it's just,
If we had finding authority, I totally agree. That's the problem.
Exactly,
Tiger with no teeth.
exactly.
And the situation with security has gotten better out there, you know, we have the sheriff who comes around and does our detail, and he was added, you know, to specifically go to the fun park. And at first you saw where he was asking a lot of people to leave that weren't residents, and now pretty much it's really calmed down there. And the last person he checked was staying with somebody over at Eagle Point, they just walked out to their car, they had it parked there, so he just checks
Yeah,
their ID and.
Without getting too much wrapped up in the process, the board, under its resolution, can authorize parking for special events or activities. If they come to the management,
Get
the
approval.
office, get approval, it's just like a little approval, I authorize you to park. And that
I
might be
think
something-
that's getting into territory that
It-
would be
it got
difficult
dangerous.
to take, that would be
Yeah.
difficult to manage.
We charge them. Special event parking.
Arguably you could.
We had
yeah, in the past.
somewhat related, question. Have you been getting any complaints on, Gateway Boulevard? I've been walking, we walk our dog, new dog, every morning, from Walden Lakes all the way to the entrance to Gateway Greens, at Gateway Greens Drive. If I had stands along one side or the other, I would swear I was at the Indy 500 every morning. I have never seen anything like it. It is every single day. Cars, if they're going by 50 and 55 mile an hour. And I mean, they are blowing by. And it's almost like when they come past, or get to the church, the next level church, and it splits into the two lanes. Those that were in the queue that had a lead foot, good. I don't know what we did. It is out of hand. It is black,
The sheriff's
dangerous on that
deputy
road.
out here.
Well, put the thing back up, that always, I mean, that's a
Do we
nice
have,
little
do we
turn.
have that,
Yeah, the speed and.
The
We have
speed
one,
deal?
there's one up on Griffin now, we could put the other one up on, Gateway.
I thought about, I've got the golf gun for the, picking out the distance. You
Do you have a
put,
permit for that thing?
yeah, I got a permit.
Yeah.
That little red line that comes out of it all. You put that right across from the entrance to the fun park on the southbound lane. I'll go out with my golf gun and have a field day.
Well, and two,
It is absurd. You look at them and you would wanna cross over to the Commons Park. You'll get killed. They are going so fast and they don't care. And I don't know where they're going to. They do not look like, I think the majority of it's cut through.
it is cut through.
It's cut through traffic.
You know, a great deterrent, and you
Somebody's
called me
gonna
today
kill them
when
on
I was
that
coming here.
The ghost car.
The ghost car. I mean,
Oh, you mean
I'm
that-
almost 50 years old, and that ghost car's been around a long time, and it gets me every time.
That ghost car reminds me of a scarecrow out in the cornfield.
But again, so
It
I don't
will.
know who makes those decisions, but again, you could
Yes, sir.
we could strategically place one on Gateway Boulevard. I think the speed indicator's a really
The
good
speed,
one.
I like the idea,
Yeah.
speed indicator, put it out there for a couple of days, and then I'll volunteer for an hour to stand by it.
Would you
Like a clipboard. Yeah, it just, oh, that'd be fun. It's dangerous, it is really dangerous. And
You
they
know,
come
it's
by
around
your
now.
entrance, Jim, going into, Hampton, and if you're coming out of Hampton and want to come across and turn left, lots of luck.
Oh, you ought to try it down at Stony Brook.
You can't
get down there, they
you can't
slow
down
down
Stony Brook. It's
some.
bumper to bumper. No.
Exactly.
Anyway,
And they
I
have
like the
stepped up
idea.
enforcement. We can put the,
I like
Just
that.
clean that thing up.
You can,
It's been sitting around.
we could take your car or my car and just go and put it on 35 miles an hour and
Just
the.
keep driving up and down
drive,
the road.
right, and we'll keep everyone
Jeez.
behind us. That would do it too.
You wanna get killed.
So I like the idea, thank you, good. Put the radar device out there.
Read Rachel's speed notes. Okay.
6A, managers report.
I just have a few things, and Kenny has a few, but basically, of course, we have our workshop on pound standards today, and the way to get public input. Our storm drain cleaning and inspection program, we have an update in there, it's moving along. We have found some areas where repairs are gonna be required. We have one storm drain in Daniels Preserve that just goes down and disappears, and we don't know where it is or where it comes out of the lake. We sent a diver out there, and when I talked to the neighbor where it was, he goes, oh, that pipe's out there in the lake. I said, where is it? He says, well, in the last drought, there was about 1 inch of it above the mud. So it's literally backfilled. And it's just one of those, you know, it's gonna be expensive to fix it and dig it out. It's, so we're budgeting that money for storm drain cleaning, repairs are gonna, and, similar to the golf course. we
But it was
have a
on
huge-
our list of ones identified.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And we have one at the golf course, it's the same thing too, and it's a 60-inch structure, and we could probably replace it with a smaller structure. However, the best time to do the work is in the dry season in January, which is top of season for the golf course. So it gets problematic, but also going in there and even putting some 36-inch or smaller pipe in, we're gonna need $8,000 or $9,000 to make that repair, and with that other pipe, it'll be 3 or 4, so and we had some minor repairs.
And it's settling in the yard, it's ugly.
And we have a few storm grates, so we've had to order 4 or 5 of them because they're just, this concrete's breaking or they're coming out. And you know, when you're looking at $400 or $500 a piece, they add up quickly.
I've had a couple of residents in Timber Ridge, ask where are we on the storm sewer cleaning, because they got the similar problem. On the south end of Timber Ridge, they had a 48 and a 36, I'm gonna say maybe 4 or 5 manhole-to-manhole sections that were plugged up 50%. They were asking me, because they haven't seen, the truck out there. Do you know where we're at on Timber Ridge? Have we got,
They were
what's the schedule to go to Timber Ridge?
Yeah, they were still working in Daniels Preserve last week, but they should be done in there this week. So then we'll move over. I also was going to mention too, with the stormwater conveyance cleaning, which is a similar project with just more than conveyance. We finished doing the conveyance coming out of Stony Brook. Finished the Silver Lakes Hidden Links back in that area. Looks very nice, they did a nice job with it, and they moved into the Flowway 3 now that they're working on. So that project's moving ahead, and we'll also next week be going out to I-75 and working out there at the Colonial Headlands.
2 issues on Stony Brooks. One, they did a good job cleaning the, where it goes into 130.
Yeah.
That was really nice. The only thing we created is we created a fishing hole now for the kids. They love it.
Thanks.
But the second one is, did by any chance anybody go into the pipe there at the road on the east side? We've done the ditch on both sides. Is the road plugged? The pipe in between the 42-inch across the road.
No, we had that inspected about 6 months ago again.
Okay, so the rip wrap that was on the westbound side,
Right.
west side,
Right.
has been pulled out of it?
It should have been, I'll have to double check.
Because that was, had rip wrap in it, but it's beautiful through there. The only thing is they aren't watering, of course we get the rain, but they put in Bahia.
Yeah, it's just in the Florida Power right away on
Yeah.
the side, so it's just Bahia.
Yeah, we just wanna make sure that that right of way, we got about 45, 60 feet there, make sure it stays that way.
So who's gonna maintain that?
That's all.
Well, that's something we're gonna have to go out
That's all right.
with mowers and just keep
Mow
it.
it. It's kinda bumpy right there, and I've walked it a couple of times.
The
I mean, you could
section
probably
in
go
the,
right through with
the section in the hidden lakes, people didn't even realize there was a flowway there.
Well, I know it.
People said, there's a flowway there?
Well, I've had a lot of people.
They thought we created it. I said,
What,
clean
what,
it out.
what a lot of people don't understand is the road, the infamous connector road, will tear all that out, because that's where it comes in.
Terrific.
That isn't gonna happen in my lifetime.
Yeah, part of that project was to create that maintenance path so we could get to the canal and smooth it out, so we could actually get a mower, go in there and work, because before, you would have to work it out of the water.
As long as you can verify that the 42-inch crossing is clean, I think, and with the combination of what was done at the weir at Stony Brook, Stony Brook now should be out of problems, at least to the extent of everything that we can do to fix it has been done.
Correct. Mrs. Flaherty?
And the rear, you made it, is the right size this time? So it's, just
Yeah,
wanted to make sure.
they corrected the mistake that had previously been made.
Are, at,
That's,
on Flowway 3, are they going to take and do the same side slope stone matting
Yes.
and then the Bahia on the sides?
And we're also adjusting the Hampton Park structure, because that needed some soft cutting too. And in Stony Brook and also over in Hampton Park, we have baffles put out in front of those structures to keep the small openings from getting clogged.
On where?
On Hampton Park and Stony Brook.
Which one at Hampton Park?
It's just
On
on the
three?
other side,
On
on the flowway coming out right before the weir.
Oh,
And
okay.
those have been installed.
Yeah, there's baffles that were scheduled to be put in both of those, and again, that's to keep the dirt and turtles and other things out of those slip holes.
Well, that really looks good there on Stony Brook, and Flowway 3 was looking pretty good. Just get that debris out of that flowway, so when we have to get water out of there. Several of the residents that lived there at the end of Hidden Lakes, they were a little disappointed that was their natural view. He said, well, when the water backs up and it's in your yard, you just appreciate your natural view. But now it's gotta be cleared out, so they understood it after they heard what it was about.
that property's for sale, so probably sooner or later it's gonna be developed and that view's gonna be obscured a little more.
Well, it will be, well, that's right, on both sides.
Right.
Yeah, both sides.
And the next thing I wanna report is we have hired a GIS attorney, he's a master's student at Florida Gulf Coast, and what he's basically gonna be doing is cataloging all our hard copy mapping resources, and then we'll be working with Passarella and sending those all out to be scanned, have a digital index for them. So A, we can get rid of all the paper, and B, when our staff's out in the field, if they need to look at some plans in an area, they can pull them up on their laptop and look at those.
Excellent, excellent
And
plan.
after we finish cataloging and getting rid of those hard copy mapping resources, we'll be working on a beta test of one subdivision where we'll put all the utility lines, storm sewer information, and all that data for asset management and mapping. And that'll be the second step.
Is he here?
No, he's not here.
Okay, cause I was gonna say, have him come in and introduce himself.
You know, I think I know you've been kind of talking about building partnerships and relationships with FGCU, and this is, I think this is a great opportunity, one, to add resources here, but also to think of opportunities for, you know, for students at the local university. I would love to even carry this with other, you know, whether it's the city, and see if there's even like a co-op or rotational program. You know, there might be something that you can, you know, think about. It'd be great to have have students be able to rotate through different government entities, gain additional insight and skill set, and bring it, you know, for 6 months, you know, in these different areas. It'd be a great program.
And especially when you get involved with that GIS side, in the job applications that they're looking for, the engineering students all require GIS, and they don't get a lot of it over there, so he's really happy to have this opportunity and hands-on experience in the internship. So,
Excellent, excellent.
Wouldn't expect anything less from the district of the year. Just saying.
thank you. I also, we had a consultant come in, and I'm gonna be brief with this, but he went in and did an evaluation of our irrigation system, one on the main drags, Griffin and Gateway Boulevard, and the other one was a detailed evaluation of the soccer field and our operation and maintenance on that. And just briefly on the evaluation of our main irrigation system, and the figures have been pretty standard historically, is he thinks we need about $1.75 to $2.2 million to rebuild our entire irrigation system.
Well, that makes me feel good. I think I estimated $2 million in the budget.
Right. We
Pretty close.
And we will be looking at the increase we had in the irrigation rates, and we did a 15% set aside on that rate and on irrigation for R&R and new capital, so it may be that we'll have a continuous enough funding source that we can start making those changes. And the big problem is our system's getting to the point where it's like we're putting $300 alternators in a $300 car. We aren't maintaining the system, we're band-aiding it together. We're paying to put batteries and battery controllers, we're fixing constant leaks and having issues, and it's getting to the point where it's costly. I mean, we're probably spending $1,000 a week on repairs to that system, and that doesn't count the water we're wasting because of the inefficiency. So we're gonna take that plan to heart and look at a way to finance it, and if we have to start doing 3 mediums or 4 or 5 a year like the funds, you know, that's what we'll do. The irrigation report on the soccer field was really eye-opening. I've had some experience doing things, but one item the consultant did is he went out there and put catch cans in all the different zones, ran the sprinklers looking for uniformity of the water getting on there, and finding, of course, a lot of areas when we're deficit, we get those hot spots, we aren't getting the coverage that we need. Some of it's line size, some of it's the heads. We also looked in detail at the maintenance that's being done, the chemical applications, the times a year, what we're putting on those fields. Got some good referrals from Jim at Magnolia Lakes, and yesterday we had a fertilizer supplier who does a lot of ag work, and another golf course superintendent who does a lot of turf consulting come out. And we're also having a fellow from JSM, which they have the contract with Lee and Collier counties to do all the sports facilities and the parks. And what I'm trying to do is get a turf person in here, and we're looking at the recommendations they made. I'm looking at what Mainscape has put together, and I'm meeting with them tomorrow and say, which one of these do you agree with? put a price tag on it. And the bottom line is, I'm gonna come back and see where we could maybe have some efficiencies, where we might be spending the same amount of money, but a little less, but we'll get a lot better product on the field. And one of the first things, and we're gonna have a summit with the leagues the first of next month to go over all these projected improvements and get them on board with them. And one of the big things, and they've already looked favorably on it, is layout of the sports fields, so that we can take them and pin them and flip all the fields once or twice during the year. So on all those high areas that we're spending a lot of money on sod and get dug out, it makes problems for the players out there, because they don't wanna be playing in a sand pit. But we can switch those fields around and reduce that. It'll cost a couple $1,000s to do the map layout and everything, but we could save $4,000 to $6,000 in sod at the end of that season. And we're also looking at adding some different aeration and some different supplement. And another thing, the ag consultant came out and did, and they use this a lot in the ag industry, and I've seen it, because farmers don't like to waste fertilizer, is they come out and basically do some soil mapping, because you may have a very expensive fertilizer product you're gonna use, but the soils are wet on 40% of the property where it doesn't function, so why are you putting it on all 10 acres? And you can also use it to do spot treatments and predict where your problems are gonna come out. And that mapping is about $2,000, but more efficiency in your fertilizer, more efficiency in